Welcome back, everyone, to the You Only podcast with Lo Jackson. First things first, let's take a moment to celebrate together. In just the past month, we've welcomed over 300 new followers into our community. And across all platforms, the You Only podcast is now approaching an incredible 80,000 total listens. That's a milestone worth cheering for, so to every listener, old and new, thank you. You are the heartbeat of this show. Last time, we dove into the fascinating world of nutritional neuroscience, exploring how the food we eat shapes the brain and impacts the mind. And the response to that episode has been amazing. So many of you reached out with stories, questions, and your own discoveries. Today, we're stepping into something just as powerful, but from a very different angle. We're exploring one of the most influential self-help books of our time, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, born in Germany in 1948, was once a man lost in depression and anxiety. Then, in his late 20s, in the depths of despair, he experienced what he calls a spiritual awakening, a sudden realization that he was not his thoughts, but the awareness behind them. That night changed the course of his life. He went from hopelessness to becoming one of the world's most recognized spiritual teachers. His books have sold in the millions, translated into more than 30 languages, and his teachings continue to shape how people across the globe understand presence, peace, and purpose. And in today's episode, you won't just hear from me. We'll also hear insights from trauma specialist Hillary Wasson, who will share how empathy and compassion connect directly to presence. And yes, you'll even hear from Eckhart Tolle himself. So get ready, take a breath, and let's step together into the now right here on the You Only podcast with Lo Jackson.
Let me begin with a story. Back in the early 2000s, Oprah Winfrey, yes, the global talk show icon, came across The Power of Now. She didn't just read it, she embraced it. Oprah said that this book helped her find stillness amidst the chaos of her career, taught her how to silence the noise of stress and external pressure, and help her recenter her life. And if you know anything about Oprah, you know that she doesn't just recommend light books. When she calls a book transformative, millions of people listen. And Oprah is not alone. Countless celebrities, CEOs, athletes, and everyday people have testified that reading The Power of Now and applying its practices have led them to not only cope with life better, but to excel. And after reading this book, my awesome loyal fan members and audience, I can tell you that Eckhart Tolle wrote a really awesome book. So please find The Power of Now and read it.
Here is trauma therapist Hillary Wasson on empath and compassion. Check her out on www.thattherapyplace.com. She shares helpful videos on TikTok and Instagram as well.
Compassion and empathy are not the same, y'all. So imagine if you were down in a fire and you needed somebody there to support you, okay? You're down in a fire. Do you want me, either as your therapist or as your friend, to be down in the fire with you? Or do you want me to be a bit distanced from you in the fire? Most people would say they want me to have a little bit of distance, right? Whatever my role is. And that's so that I don't also get burned. And this is why empathy fatigue does exist, but compassion fatigue doesn't. Compassion is, in theory, endless, right? But empathy is not. Empathy is much more taxing to do. And we can't just muster it up if it's not there, okay? So what does compassion look like right now? Compassion looks like, did we want this to happen? Of course not. Do we hold space for the victims and for the survivors who are now walking around traumatized, for his family? Of course. Do we hold compassion for him? This should not have happened. What a terrible thing. But do we have empathy, which is understanding somebody's perspective and being right up there in it? If that is too hard for people right now and they need some distance, that doesn't mean that they don't have compassion, y'all.
His birth name was Ulrich Leonhard Tolle. He was born in Lunen, Germany in 1948. Much of his youth, Tolle suffered from depression and anxiety. In fact, He was on the brink of despair when, at age 29, he had what he described as a spiritual awakening. And a lot of us young men at the age of 29 have spiritual awakenings because we have been maturing and maturing since our existence. And it takes the man longer than the woman. Almost 10 years more of learning for a man to become mature, and sometimes men don't mature. A sudden realization that he was not his thoughts, but the awareness behind them. This moment of radical clarity changed his life forever. He went from near suicidal despair to becoming a spiritual teacher, living in London, eventually moving to Vancouver, Canada, where he still lives on this very moment and day. And the core message, the power of now, is about this. The present moment is all we have ever truly had, ever.
Here is spiritual teacher and self help author Eckhart Tolle.
Give yourself 30 seconds to just be present. But it has to be done in the right way. You're not saying, okay, Eckhart says that, and then you say, okay, here we go. You're just straining to get out of the 30 seconds. So it has to be focused on your breath, for example, that helps, or the inner body.
So remember that the present moment is all we ever truly have. The past is memory. The future is imagination. And when we live in the now, we find peace, clarity, and power. Toll gives us tools to train the mind away from constant chatter and into presence. And today we all suffer from the craziness of chatter at every corner of our minds. So much chatter because there's so many things being thrown at us every 2 seconds on the radio, on the TV, on our phones. Yes, it happens like this.
Here is spiritual teacher and self help author Eckhart Tolle.
So if you're being tortured by your thoughts, as many people are, and many people don't even know that they're tortured by your thoughts. They think they're being tortured by life. Whatever their life situation, my life is so dreadful. My life is so difficult and complicated, and I can't stand it anymore. This is and then the narrative continues and continues, and you think that's your life, not knowing that it's a narrative in your mind. It's not your life. To confuse a narrative in your mind with your life is a fundamental, very dreadful error, but very, very common.
Let me walk you through some of the best practices from the book with extra context, stats, and wisdom. Toll says most of us are constantly trapped in our heads, replaying past mistakes, worrying about the future. He calls this being identified with the thinker. Remember the statue of the guy with his hand up to his mouth thinking, yeah, you never looked like him. Take a step back for a moment and notice your thoughts as you are watching them on a movie screen. Instead of saying, I am anxious, you say, I notice there is anxiety in me. And when you say, I notice there is anxiety in me, you are giving it a label. And what it does is it takes the power away from the anxiousness. Did you know studies show the average person has over 6,000 thoughts per day? And that was from Queen's University in 2020. By learning to witness them instead of drowning in them, we regain power. And that's what I was just telling you. So focus on your breath. Excuse me. Toll often teaches that when the mind spirals, the simplest doorway back to the now is your breath. And I have said this in several other episodes. Your breath is the most important thing about you. It can control all kinds of different things that go on as long as you revert back to the breath of life. So sit quietly, close your eyes, and just feel and the inhale and exhale. Don't control it, just notice it. Because a lot of people They think, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You're breathing in with all these seconds. It don't work like that. It has to be natural for it to work. It has to be a part of your being because your breath is who you are. This is almost identical to what Buddhist teachings and Christian contemplative prayer emphasizes.
Is a breathing technique that can create a bodily experience similar to psychedelics, where there's no substances required and you just use your lungs. So here's the science behind breathwork and how it can trigger mystical states while healing your body. A recent groundbreaking study published in Nature shows that circular breathwork can trigger altered states of consciousness that rivals psilocybin and MDMA. Researchers measured something called end-tidal carbon dioxide, which is the air that you breathe out, and they found that during deep breathwork, these levels plummeted. So the lower your CO2 levels drop, the deeper your altered states of consciousness became. And we're talking about experiences like ego dissolution, mystical insights, a feeling of unity, and vivid visuals, all without any substances. So this happens because when you hyperventilate in a circular rhythm, your blood becomes more alkaline, your brain flow shifts, and your neocortex begins to quiet down just like it does under psychedelics. And the study showed that this is connected to less inflammation, less depression symptoms, and improved nervous system regulation. Key takeaway here is that we're probably taking for granted the mere act of breathing and how powerful it can be to transform our health.
In Psalms 46:10, the Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God." And in Buddhism, one of the earliest mindful discourses instructs practitioners to mindfully breathe in, mindfully breathe out. Different religions, same principle. The breath is sacred, my friends. One of Tolle's unique ideas is the pain body. And this is in chapter 3 of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. His term for the accumulated emotional pain we carry. It can be triggered by stress or conflict and suddenly take over us, making us react in ways that don't match the present moment. So practice this. When angered or jealous or sadness arises, instead of feeding it with more stories, simply recognize this is the pain body. Naming it loosens its grip. Giving it a label desensitizes it completely in your mind to the point you have power over it at that moment. Honestly, and that's the way it works when you desensitize your mind and your subconscious mind to something. So, psychology confirms this. A UCLA study found that labeling emotions actually decreases activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and I've spoke about that in other episodes, and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, which helps us regulate emotions. And that's the governor of the mind. It soothes you. It tells you there's nothing to fear. There's no reason to fight. There's no reason to freeze. And when you have total inner control, you also become your own self's best friend in those moments because you are aware of yourself, you love yourself. So then you are capable of loving and showing the world these things that you hold inside of you that you've cultivated throughout time. And in chapter 4, inner body awareness, Toll encourages people to shift attention away from racing thoughts and to the energy field of the body. So close your eyes and focus on your hands, he says, without moving them. Can you feel the aliveness inside? That buzzing, tingling sensation, that's presence. Neurologically, this relates to what's called interception, the brain's ability to sense the internal state of the body. People with stronger interoceptive awareness often have lower stress and better emotional regulation. And these are your managers in the workplace. These are your big brother and your big sister in the moment of fear when they're sticking up for you. Chapter 5 of this book, Time versus Clock Time. Toll distinguishes between clock time, the practical use of time like planning a meeting, and psychological time, worrying about what might happen tomorrow, regretting yesterday. And a lot of us spend many moments doing these things. And it's a waste because that is what the world wants. Because the more time you waste in life, the less time you have to catch up to those who ain't stuck in that kind of system and they're excelling. and they're leaving you behind. And it's not your fault, but you can do something about it by making good choices, planting good seeds, and reaping the benefits tomorrow when those seeds come to life.
Here is spiritual teacher and self-help author Eckhart Tolle.
Be grateful for whatever your experience of this moment is. And if you cannot be grateful, at least allow it to be, because it already is. You might as well. Now, if you did this little thing, it sounds very little, and it is very little, allowing your experience of this moment to be the way it is, just this little thing would remove, well, it's hard to put it in percentage terms, let's say 95% of the suffering from your life. I don't know about the rest, the 5%, we'll get to that sometime. That would already remove a gigantic chunk of unhappiness in whatever form.
And why this matters to me, and why it should matter to my audience. In a world where anxiety and depression are at record highs, the World Health Organization reports that 1 in 8 people worldwide live with a mental health disorder today. Learning presence isn't just nice philosophy, it's survival. And it's something that we all need to learn to cultivate. And the good news is, this isn't reserved for monks or mystics. Anyone can practice it right now in small steps. So, as we wrap up today, journey through the power of now. Let me thank you again. We've grown by 300 new followers this past month, and I am so thankful. And so each one of you who have joined my platform, welcome. And I hope you enjoy the information that you learn here. And maybe this will help you heal. Maybe it'll help you teach somebody that you know that is struggling with something that you may hear on this podcast. This is how I feel. Reach one, teach one. We've reached 80,000 listens on this podcast. And to my listeners in India, the Philippines, Egypt, Bangladesh, and obviously America, thank you for showing me that presence, that mindfulness. And growth are global, not just here where I am. Eckhart Tolle reminds us, realize deeply that present moment is all you ever have. Make the now primary focus of your life. Share this with your kids. Share this with your mom, with your dad. Grab their hand, tell them how much you love them today. Let's try to do it together. As we close, take a single breath in, out. That's now. That's the power. This isn't just another book, audience. The power of now has been touching people's lives since 1997 when it was published. Annie Lennox, the singer, has named it among her top reads. Katy Perry, the singer, said the book inspired her song, This Moment, from her 2013 album, Prism. Kendrick Lamar references the power of now throughout his 2022 album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So please read this book, use it, and grow. I love my audience, and thank you to my new followers. And tune in to my next wonderful episode. Until then, it's your boy Lo Jackson. You only.
You only podcast. With Lo Jackson, rewire the mind. Yeah, the thoughts keep flashing. 60,000 strong, we just keep on growing. Emotional intelligence, a vibe keep flowing. You only podcast. One mind, one show. Awareness in your soul, let the knowledge just grow. You only podcast. With Lo Jackson, rewire the mind. Yeah, the thoughts keep flashing. 60,000 strong, we just